Burt Reynolds was burning millions on mansions and chicken restaurants. Kim Basinger bought an entire town and lost it, while Nicolas Cage spent millions on castles, a dinosaur skull, and even a pyramid tomb. In this video, we're breaking down the shocking stories of the 80s actors who went from millionaire icons to financial disasters. Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds was Hollywood's box office king in the 1980s, earning up to $10 million annually from hits like Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run. But beneath his famous mustache lay devastating financial decisions that would destroy his fortune. During the height of his success, Reynolds lived like the king of Hollywood that he essentially was. His lifestyle was legendary in its excess. He dropped over $100,000 on custom toupees alone, maintaining his signature look amid a lifestyle that burned through money faster than a wildfire through dry brush. His Florida estate, the sprawling 434-acre Valhalla compound, complete with a private lake and theater, became what he would later describe as a money pit, with annual upkeep exceeding $500,000. But the real hemorrhaging came from his business ventures, particularly his disastrous foray into the restaurant industry. In the 1980s, Reynolds made what would prove to be a fatal financial error. He personally guaranteed leases for 30 Po Folks Southern Fried Chicken franchises. When the parent company collapsed due to mismanagement, Reynolds found himself legally obligated for $20 to $30 million in losses, bleeding more than $100,000 monthly in rent and fees. As if one restaurant disaster wasn't enough, he later launched Burt's Place, a themed diner chain that folded in the early 1990s, adding insult to an already devastating financial injury. His bitter 1988 divorce from Lonnie Anderson cost over $2 million in legal fees and settlements, including $15,000 monthly alimony and ongoing child support that reached $400,000 in arrears by 2014. The final blow came when CBS's Evening Shade was canceled after 98 episodes, just 2 short of syndication, leaving him unable to repay a $4 million advance loan. On December 10, 1996, Reynolds filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing $6.5 million in assets against $11.2 million in liabilities. Even facing ruin, he maintained his honor, refusing to stiff creditors despite advice to do so. By his 2018 death, his net worth had stabilized at $5 million, comfortable but a shadow of his peak wealth. But Burt wasn't the only 80s star whose empire collapsed. While Reynolds lost millions in chicken shacks, Kim Basinger gambled on something even crazier, buying an entire town. Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger was one of Hollywood's highest-paid stars in the late 1980s, with an estimated net worth of $30 million after Batman's success. 2 catastrophic decisions would destroy this fortune within years. The seeds of Basinger's financial destruction were planted in 1989 when, flush with success from Batman's massive box office performance, she made what seemed like an inspired investment decision. Basinger and a group of business partners, including family members, purchased the entire town of Brazelton, Georgia, 1,691 acres encompassing a bank, an industrial park, 50 buildings, and surrounding farmland for $20 million. Her vision was breathtakingly ambitious: transform this sleepy rural outpost into a tourist mecca complete with movie studios, a film festival, luxury hotels, and recording facilities, capitalizing on her celebrity status to attract investors and visitors from around the world. The project failed completely due to poor planning and economic challenges. When she finally sold in 1995 for just $4.3 million, she absorbed a devastating $15.7 million loss. The second disaster was Boxing Helena. In January 1991, Basinger verbally committed to star in the controversial erotic thriller, but withdrew weeks before filming after her new agents reviewed the script. Mainline Pictures sued for $8.9 million, and a jury awarded them the full amount in 1993. Unable to post the required bond for appeal, Basinger filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on May 19, 1993, with assets of $5.4 million against liabilities exceeding $7.4 million. Fortunately, Basinger's salvation came through the legal system that had initially condemned her. In September 1994, the California Court of Appeals overturned the jury verdict, ruling that the oral contract was unenforceable and the damages were excessive. This breakthrough allowed her to settle the lawsuit in 1995 for $3.8 million. Still a devastating loss, but manageable compared to the original judgment. The bankruptcy and scandal significantly impacted Basinger's career momentum. Films like Cool world underperformed during this period, and she lost valuable years fighting legal battles instead of building her filmography. However, her talent ultimately prevailed. She mounted a spectacular comeback, winning an Academy Award for LA Confidential in 1998 and earning $6 million for 8 Mile in 2002. As of 2025, her net worth is estimated at $50 million, rebuilt through selective high-profile roles and smart financial management. If Basinger's downfall was bizarre, Gary Busey's was pure chaos. His fortune didn't disappear in boardrooms or lawsuits. It went up in smoke, literally, through cocaine and tragedy. Gary Busey. Gary Busey's Oscar-nominated performance in The Buddy Holly Story, 1978, established him as a major star, leading to lucrative roles in Lethal Weapon and Point Break. However, cocaine addiction and a devastating motorcycle accident would destroy both his career and finances. The foundation of Busey's downfall was laid shortly after his greatest professional triumph. His introduction to cocaine came immediately after his 1978 Oscar nomination, when a dealer delivered a Tiffany box of the drug to his door as a congratulatory gift, a gesture that hooked him instantly. As he later reflected in an interview with Oprah, "I'd never done it before and I tried it and bam, whoa, I was taken by the addiction," unknowingly echoing Robin Williams' observation that cocaine was God's way of telling you have too much money. The drug habit became an insidious drain on his finances, consuming not just direct payments to dealers, but creating indirect costs through lost opportunities, damaged professional relationships, and increasingly expensive rehabilitation attempts. Busey later admitted that drugs were his worst money mistakes, estimating heavy spending on cocaine that prioritized addiction over savings or investments. By the early 1990s, his drug use had led to such erratic behavior that directors noted his inability to remember lines, severely limiting his earning potential just as his career should have been reaching its most lucrative phase. On December 4, 1988, Busey crashed his helmetless Harley-Davidson, splitting his skull and suffering severe traumatic brain injury that changed his personality permanently. The medical bills were catastrophic, and the brain injury shifted him from leading man to character actor in low-budget films. His personal life also collapsed. Divorces in 1990 and 2008 added ongoing support obligations, while unpaid taxes accumulated to $451,297 owed to the IRS and California. By 2012, Busey filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, with debts exceeding $1 million against assets of just $50,000. Today, at 81, his net worth remains around $500,000, with ongoing IRS debts that survived bankruptcy. Busey's addiction nearly ended his career, but Don Johnson's fall was more like one of his Miami Vice storylines: fast cars, big money, and an international scandal straight out of a movie. Don Johnson. Don Johnson rose from poverty to become television's highest-paid actor during Miami Vice, earning up to $20 million per season. Yet a bizarre international scandal and lavish spending nearly destroyed his empire. During Miami Vice's cultural dominance from 1984 to 1989, Johnson didn't just play Sonny Crockett. He embodied the excess of the Reagan era. His lifestyle became legendary for its extravagance: Ferrari collections, a $4 million guest house with an Olympic-sized pool, and a seemingly endless parade of expensive relationships and marriages. His romantic entanglements alone cost him millions: multiple marriages to Melanie Griffith, relationships with high-profile actresses like Patty D'Arbanville, and the inevitable divorce settlements that accompanied each failed relationship. His troubled youth, including time in reform school at age 12 for joyriding and heavy drug use during his rise to fame, had instilled spending patterns that treated money as something to be consumed rather than preserved. The first signs of trouble appeared as Johnson attempted to transition from his Miami Vice success to film stardom. Movies like Born Yesterday in 1992 flopped badly, drying up the high-paying opportunities he'd grown accustomed to. While Nash Bridges provided steady television income from 1996 to 2001, the show's producers withheld profits that Johnson later had to sue to recover, creating cash flow problems just as he was making major real estate investments, including a $21 million ranch in Woody Creek, Colorado. Johnson embodied 1980s excess with Ferrari collections, a $4 million guest house, and expensive marriages to stars like Melanie Griffith. Post-Miami Vice films flopped, and while Nash Bridges provided steady income, producers withheld profits he later had to sue to recover. The crisis began in November 2002 when Johnson was detained at the Swiss-German border with $8 billion in credit notes and securities in his car. Though cleared of money laundering, the scandal scared away investors and caused banks to close his accounts, costing millions in lost deals. By April 2004, his companies filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy to protect his $20 million Woody Creek ranch ranch from foreclosure. He paid $930,447 to creditors by December and emerged from bankruptcy, though foreclosure scares continued until 2008. Johnson's salvation came through a Nash Bridges lawsuit victory, winning $23.2 million from producers for unpaid profits. Today, his net worth stands at $50 million, fully recovered through legal victories and smart investments. While Johnson was battling border police with billions in credit notes, Willie Ames was quietly sliding from sitcom fame into something far darker: bankruptcy and homelessness. Willie Ames. Willie Ames became a household name as Tommy Bradford on 8 is Enough, 1977 to 1981, earning over $1 million annually, then starring in Charles in Charge. Despite this success, financial illiteracy and catastrophic investments led to bankruptcy and homelessness. The seeds of Ames' destruction were planted early in his career, during what should have been his most prosperous years. Despite earning 7 figures annually from 8 is Enough, Ames later admitted to being clueless about money management, relying heavily on advisors who didn't have his best interests at heart. This financial illiteracy, combined with the entertainment industry's notorious complexity, left him vulnerable to exploitation and poor decision-making that would haunt him for decades. His first bankruptcy filing came in 1997, which he attributed to not paying attention to his finances and trusting the wrong people. Compounding his financial ignorance was a growing battle with drug and alcohol addiction that began during his teenage years. In a 2020 interview with the 700 Club, Ames discussed how these substance abuse issues led to impulsive financial decisions and lost work opportunities, creating a vicious cycle where addiction drove poor choices, which led to career setbacks, which in turn fueled more desperate behavior. The costs weren't just professional. Multiple rehab stints, medical bills, and the general chaos that addiction brings to one's life systematically drained whatever resources he had managed to accumulate during his peak earning years. Ames filed his first bankruptcy in 1997, admitting he was clueless about money and trusted advisors who didn't have his best interests at heart. Drug and alcohol addiction during this period led to impulsive decisions and lost work opportunities, creating a destructive cycle. The worst disasters came in the 2000s. His accountant recommended investing in a coal mine deal that failed, leaving Ames with $400,000 in IRS debt. Even more devastating was his $150,000 investment in McMillan River Adventures, a hunting TV show, plus substantial home equity loans to cover production costs. When the 2008 recession killed sponsorships, he was on the hook for huge amounts of debt that led directly to foreclosure. Personal trauma compounded the financial stress. His wife Maylo's chronic illness generated massive medical bills, and their 25-year marriage ended in divorce around 2009. By December 2008, Ames had lost his home, car, and utilities over a $900 bill. He became homeless, sleeping in parking garages and under bushes, surviving by catching and killing his own food. Recovery began with VH1's Broken Fabulous in 2009, where financial coach Serrano Kelly provided $25,000 and guidance. Today, married to Winnie Hung since 2014, Ames works in cruise entertainment and advocates for financial literacy. His message: don't let others steer your ship. If Ames lost it all through bad advice and bad luck, Leif Garrett lost it all in one reckless moment: a car crash that destroyed both his best friend's life and his own future. Leif Garrett. Leif Garrett rose to fame as the ultimate teen heartthrob of the late 1970s, with his 1979 single I Was Made for Dancin', hitting #10 in the US and #4 in the UK. His early success seemed to promise unlimited prosperity, but a single tragic decision would trigger decades of destruction. Garrett's early success seemed to promise unlimited prosperity. Starting as a child model at age 5, he quickly transitioned to acting roles alongside his sister Dawn Lynn, appearing in films and television shows throughout the early 1970s. His breakthrough came with the 1975 CBS series 3 for the Road, which thrust him into the teen idol spotlight just as his music career was taking off. His 1977 self-titled debut album spawned covers like Surfin' USA, which peaked at #20 on the Billboard Hot 100. Even more successful was his 1979 single, I Was Made for Dancin', which hit #10 in the US and #4 in the UK, selling over 1 million copies worldwide and seeming to secure his financial future. At his peak, Garrett's income streams included album sales, concert tours, television specials, and endorsement deals that should have set him up for life. He had his own 1979 NBC variety show called Leif, featuring guests like Brooke Shields, and continued acting in films like The Outsiders directed by Francis Ford Coppola. However, beneath the glossy magazine covers and screaming fans, darker forces were already at work. Garrett later admitted to starting drug use at age 14, initially as a way to cope with the pressures of fame and what he would later reveal to be unprocessed childhood trauma. trauma. Everything changed on November 3, 1979, 5 days before Garrett's 18th birthday, when he crashed his Porsche while severely intoxicated, leaving his passenger and best friend Roland Winkler paralyzed from the chest down. The scandal destroyed his teen idol image just as his career was peaking. The civil lawsuit proved financially catastrophic. In December 1984, a Los Angeles jury ruled Garrett 92% at fault, awarding total damages of $4,215,500. While insurance covered most costs, Garrett faced $15,000 in personal punitive damages, plus substantial legal fees. More damaging was the complete destruction of his earning capacity. Tours, endorsements, and major acting roles became virtually impossible. The guilt and trauma fueled serious drug addiction that consumed whatever money remained. Garrett's arrest record became a litany of drug charges: cocaine possession in 1997, heroin attempts in 1999, and multiple possession arrests throughout the 2000s. Each incident brought fines, legal fees, and rehabilitation costs. By October 2001, Garrett filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing just $350 in cash and $1,000 in assets against $76,198 in credit card debt. His income was a mere $1,000 monthly allowance from his mother. Today, his net worth remains around $10,000, a tragic end to what should have been a lifetime of prosperity. And while Garrett spiraled from teen idol to addict, Gary Coleman's story was even more heartbreaking. His millions didn't vanish in parties or cars. They were stolen by the very people who were supposed to protect him. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman became one of the most iconic child stars of the 1980s as Arnold Jackson on Different Strokes, earning up to $100,000 per episode and accumulating over $18 million. Yet, systematic theft by his adoptive parents would leave him broke and bitter by his death in 2010. Coleman's earnings during Different Strokes were truly extraordinary for a child actor of that era. Over the show's 8-season run, he earned more than $18 million from acting alone, plus additional income from endorsements, television movies, and personal appearances. However, California's child labor laws required that his earnings be placed in a trust fund controlled by his adoptive parents, Willie and Edmonia Sue Coleman, who also served as his managers from the very beginning of his career. This arrangement, designed to protect young performers, became the vehicle for Coleman's systematic financial destruction. The core betrayal was revealed in February 1989, when 21-year-old Coleman filed a $3.8 million lawsuit against his parents and business manager Anita DeThomas, accusing them of misappropriating his trust fund and breaching their fiduciary duties. His attorney, Drew Rice, had spent 2 years investigating Coleman's finances and discovered that between 1982 and 1987, they had allegedly siphoned off $1.28 million through excessive commissions, salaries, fees, and unauthorized pension contributions, money that was supposed to secure Coleman's future, but instead lined their pockets. His parents fought back by petitioning for conservatorship, arguing Coleman was emotionally unstable due to his kidney disease. The 4-year legal battle finally ended in 1993, with Coleman winning $1.28 million, but legal fees eroded much of the recovery. With his trust fund depleted, Coleman attempted various ventures that failed. His Gary Coleman game parlor arcade business collapsed in 1995, costing $200,000. Medical expenses from his nephrotic syndrome cost tens of thousands annually, while his inability to secure steady work due to typecasting created an impossible situation. On August 19, 1999, Coleman filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, seeking to discharge $72,000 in debts with only a few thousand in assets. When he died in 2010, his primary asset was his Provo home with a $325,000 mortgage against $100,000 equity. The home went into foreclosure after his death, a final indignity for someone who once earned millions. Coleman's downfall came from betrayal, but Sherman Hemsley's came from a single catastrophic mistake, sinking his Jefferson's fortune into one of the worst comedies ever made. Sherman Hemsley. Sherman Hemsley immortalized George Jefferson, television's most money-obsessed character, on The Jeffersons, 1975 to 1985, earning substantial wealth from residuals. Ironically, his own financial illiteracy would destroy his fortune through a catastrophic movie investment. In the mid-1980s, as The Jeffersons was winding down its historic run, Hemsley made what seemed like a logical career move, transitioning from television to film stardom. He invested heavily, reportedly millions of dollars, in producing and starring in Ghost Fever, a low-budget 1987 horror comedy about two LAPD detectives battling ghosts in a haunted mansion. Hemsley saw this as his ticket to movie leading man status, pouring his sitcom profits into the project alongside producer-distributor Wolf Schmidt of Kodiak Films, believing that his television popularity would translate into box office success. The film failed spectacularly on every level. With a $2 million budget, Ghost Fever grossed under $200,000 at the box office and received scathing reviews, earning a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But the financial disaster went beyond mere commercial failure. Hemsley alleged that Schmidt concealed profits from video rentals and sales, which were surprisingly lucrative for direct-to-video releases in that era. This betrayal set off a protracted legal battle that would consume Hemsley's remaining resources and time. Hemsley filed suit in December 1987, beginning a decade-long legal battle. Though he won $2.8 million in 1996, Schmidt had filed bankruptcy in 1995, making the judgment uncollectible. Despite victory in court, Hemsley received nothing. By 1998, desperate for cash, he took a $1 million high-interest loan from Trust Deed Investment Corp. The balance ballooned to $995,355 by 1999, while he also owed $15,500 in back taxes. He filed Chapter 13 bankruptcy in June 1999, but voluntarily dismissed it after partial settlements. To escape financial pressures, Hemsley moved to El Paso, Texas, living frugally in a $150,000 ranch house. In 2005, he sold all future royalty rights to his television work for immediate cash. When he died in 2012, his estate was valued at just $300,000, a fraction of what the Jeffersons' residuals should have provided. And if Hemsley's loss was tragic, Corey Haim was a full-blown Hollywood cautionary tale. At his peak, he was making millions per film, but by the end, he was auctioning off his hair on eBay. Corey Haim. Corey Haim rose to fame as a teen idol, starring in 1980s hits like The Lost Boys and License to Drive, commanding $2 million per film at his peak. However, severe drug addiction and systematic exploitation led to bankruptcy in 1997, and his tragic death in 2010, broke and desperate. The seeds of Haim's destruction were planted during what should have been his moment of greatest triumph. Haim later identified License to Drive as his breaking point for drug use, marking the beginning of a cocaine addiction that would escalate to prescription pills and ultimately consume his wealth and his life. What started as experimentation during the pressures of film production quickly spiraled into a full-blown addiction that required increasingly expensive rehabilitation attempts, none of which provided lasting sobriety. The estimated cost of his addiction over the years exceeded $500,000 in direct treatment expenses alone, not counting the far greater losses from missed opportunities and destroyed professional relationships. One of the most damaging episodes in Haim's financial decline involved his relationship with manager Michael Bass, a convicted fraudster who exploited the young actor's addiction-fueled vulnerability. In 1992, during the height of his substance abuse, Haim used his earnings to enter a lease option agreement on a $1.35 million Hancock Park mansion with Bass. Bass, who had previously served 2 years for mail fraud in an unrelated electronics scam, rushed this real estate deal to provide cover for an elaborate con game. He used the mansion to host what appeared to be a legitimate fundraiser for Toys for Russian Children, but actually pocketed the donated funds in a scam that was exposed during the 1990 Academy Awards season. The scheme not only drained Haim's resources through the property costs, but also entangled him in a fraudulent operation that damaged his reputation and exposed him to potential legal liability. One of his most damaging relationships was with manager Michael Bass, a convicted fraudster who exploited Haim's vulnerability. In 1992, Haim entered a $1.35 million mansion lease option with Bass, who used the property to host a fake charity fundraiser that was actually an elaborate con game. The scheme drained Haim's resources and exposed him to legal liability. His career unraveled in 1996 when he withdrew from Paradise Bar due to relapse, triggering a $375,000 lawsuit from Lloyd's of London for insurance fraud. On July 24, 1997, Haim filed Chapter 11, bankruptcy with $300,000 in debts against just $39,350 in assets, including $103,974 owed to the IRS and $100,000 in California taxes. The years after bankruptcy brought desperate attempts to generate income, including auctioning hair clippings and an extracted molar on eBay. By 2008, he was homeless, and in his final month, he obtained 553 prescription doses from 7 doctors, costing over $10,000 monthly. When he died in 2010, he was living with his mother in a low-rent apartment with no assets. Corey Haim's spiral showed how fast addiction can burn through millions, but he wasn't the only 80s star destroyed by drugs and desperation. Todd Bridges, another child actor from the same era, went from sitcom fame to the courtroom, burning through his fortune along the way. Todd Bridges. Todd Bridges starred as Willis Jackson on Diff'rent Strokes, 1978 to 1986, earning $50,000 per episode in later seasons and accumulating millions. However, childhood trauma, addiction, and legal troubles destroyed his wealth, leading to bankruptcy in the mid-1990s. The roots of Bridges' destruction trace back to childhood experiences that occurred during Diff'rent Strokes' early success. Born in 1965 to actor parents, with his mother Betty Bridges working as a talent agent, he entered Hollywood young but endured devastating abuse that would haunt him for decades. In his 2008 memoir, Killing Willis, Bridges revealed that he was touched by a family friend and former publicist starting around age 12 during 1977 when Diff'rent Strokes was beginning its run. When he confided in his father about the abuse, the response was dismissive, compounding the trauma and leaving young Bridges to cope with overwhelming feelings of shame and worthlessness entirely on his own. The family environment provided no refuge from these pressures. Bridges witnessed domestic violence, including his father punching his mother, and endured physical beatings himself. This dysfunction, combined with the intense pressures of child stardom, long working hours, constant public scrutiny, and being typecast as Willis, pushed him toward increasingly desperate forms of escapism. By age 15, around 1980, co-star Dana Plato introduced him to marijuana on the Diff'rent Strokes set, which quickly escalated to cocaine experimentation as a way to cope with his unprocessed trauma. When Diff'rent Strokes ended in 1986, Bridges was suddenly without structure or steady income. His methamphetamine use escalated dramatically, leading to drug dealing and other illegal activities to fund his expensive habit. His accountant allegedly stole $3 million during this period. The addiction created cascading legal troubles. In 1989, he was accused of shooting drug dealer Kenneth Tex Clay 8 times, spending 9 months in jail awaiting trial. Though acquitted in 1990, legal fees likely exceeded $500,000 across multiple cases. Additional arrests for drug possession in 1990 and 1992 added more costs and destroyed his employability. By the mid-1990s, Bridges filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy as debts from rent, taxes, medical bills, and legal obligations overwhelmed his non-existent income. His sobriety journey began February 24, 1993, and has lasted over 32 years. Today, married since 2002 with 2 children, his net worth is $250,000, $500,000, modest but representing genuine recovery and stability. Bridges' fall seemed like the worst of the child stars, but when it comes to spectacular wipeouts, no one beats Nicolas Cage. His financial meltdown is legendary: castles, islands, and even a dinosaur skull. Nicolas Cage. What distinguished Cage's financial downfall from other celebrity bankruptcies was the sheer eccentricity of his spending patterns, which reflected his fascination with the bizarre and collectible rather than traditional luxury items. His purchases weren't just indulgent. They often appreciated initially, but became liabilities when authenticity or legality issues arose. The most infamous example was his $276,000 purchase of a 70-million-year-old Tyrannosaurus bataar skull in 2007, which he acquired at auction after outbidding Leonardo DiCaprio. The purchase later proved catastrophic when federal authorities revealed the skull had been stolen from Mongolia, forcing Cage to return it in 2012 after a federal lawsuit with no compensation for his substantial investment. Cage's purchases were legendarily bizarre: a $276,000 stolen Tyrannosaurus skull he had to return to Mongolia, a $3 million private Bahamas island, shrunken pygmy heads, and a $150,000 octopus named Cool. He owned European castles costing millions and built a $500,000 pyramid tomb in New Orleans. Most damaging was his real estate empire: 15 residences worldwide valued over $100 million. The 2008 financial crisis devastated these overleveraged positions. As he later explained, "I was overinvested in real estate. The real estate market crashed, and I couldn't get out in time." In November 2009, the IRS hit him with a $6.2 million lien for unpaid taxes, with total debts approaching $14 million. Cage sued his manager Samuel J. Russo for $20 million, alleging gross mismanagement. Rather than declare bankruptcy, Cage chose to work his way out of debt, describing the period as dark, but crediting work as his guardian angel. He committed to making up to 6 films per year, many low-budget, crummy movies designed purely for cash flow. His Superman comic, purchased for $150,000, sold for $2.16 million in 2011, helping clear debts. Cage's recovery began around 2021 with acclaimed films like Pig. As of 2025, his net worth has stabilized at $40 million, proving that determination and hard work can overcome even the most severe financial setbacks. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.